are forces beyond this universe. So look into them.
Doctor, you need to get me home.
This might be the long way round. But the games are deadly.
Welcome back to the Nerdy Grail. Now, this is a video that I was really on the fence about making. I really wasn't sure if I was going to be wanting to discuss this, because I'm not really one to go on massive rants. And this isn't really going to be a ranty video, but this is going to be more of a discussion about my potential concerns that I've got about the upcoming series of Doctor Who, which we now know should be going live on Saturday, the 12th of April. So not that long at all, only just over a month away. It's really coming close now. But I think I can speak on behalf of quite a lot of Doctor Who fans and say that Doctor Who isn't exactly the show that it used to be. And I adore Doctor Who. I've loved Doctor Who for just over 20 years now. I actually didn't start with New Who. I actually started with Classic Who with Tom Baker, and I built my way up to watching New Who. So I've loved every era of the show, even Jodie Whittaker's era. I think they're all great to some extent, but I can't deny, since the show came back in 2023 with the 60th anniversary specials and RTD returned, something has just felt a little bit off to me. And so in this video, I'm not only going to be talking about my concerns for season 2, but I'm going to talk about how I feel like the show has progressively changed dramatically since RTD took over and since Disney had a hold on the show. So I'm going to talk about not only the 60th anniversary specials, but also season 1, and then we will dive into season 2. So I'm going to waste no more time, and I'm going to jump straight in to my first point in this video, where I'm actually going to take you back to 2022, when Jodie Whittaker stepped down as the Time Lord and regenerated once again into David Tennant. Ah, the power of the Doctor, and still to this day, in my eyes, is actually the true 60th anniversary special. It celebrates the past a lot more than the 60th anniversary does, in my opinion, bringing back loads of previous Doctors, previous companions galore, even one of the first companions ever, William Russell, the late great William Russell, who plays Ian Chesterton. You know, you've got the Master, the Daleks, the Cybermen, you've got the return of the Fugitive Doctor, you've got Vinda, you've got so many characters and plot lines from the past. It is definitely, in my mind, the true 60th anniversary special. But yeah, the problem starts here, because the 13th Doctor, at the end, regenerates into David Tennant, who then becomes the 14th Doctor, which was a massive shock to everyone, because we thought that we were going to see Ncuti Gatwa appear before us on screen, and then we would go forward there. We didn't expect to see David Tennant come back. Now, he only came back for a short period of time, but that's not the issue. But straight away, there was a ton of controversy going on with this decision, in particular with the fact that the 14th Doctor's clothes change. So when 13 regenerates, it burns away her clothes, and 14 then appears fully in costume in his new suit. Now, we're used to the Doctor regenerating and keeping the previous incarnation's clothes. It's kind of like a staple at this point, and it's a bit of fun getting to see the new actor still wearing the previous actor or actress's clothes. It's almost like an initiation. You know, they have to earn their new costume. So to have him just boom, be in the new costume felt really weird. Now, for classic Whovians, this was not the first time this happened, because actually, way back during Power of the Daleks, after the regeneration of the first Doctor played by William Hartnell into the second Doctor played by Patrick Troughton in the 10th Planet to the Power of the Daleks, the Doctor's costume actually did change along with him. So this is not the first time it's happened, but there was more of a reason back then, and regeneration hadn't actually been established. It was still quite mysterious. But since then, it's always been the case that the clothes stayed the same, and the Doctor would have to earn and get their new outfit during their first journey. So this was definitely a bizarre choice to be had. And this wouldn't necessarily be a problem if RTD himself hadn't come out and given one of the weakest arguments I think I've ever seen in my life. Now, I had to read loads of articles about this. I remember reading the articles about this at the time, and I will put them on screen for you right here. These are things that RTD has said, that he said he didn't want David Tennant to appear in Jodie Whittaker's costume because he thought the notion of men dressing in women's clothes, the notion of drag, is quite delicate, and he thought it would be a bit of a mockery. And so, out of respect to Jodie and her doctor, it made more sense for him to change his costume. I'm sorry, RTD, but I'm fairly certain. I'm also going to put a picture on screen right now of the 13th Doctor's outfit. I'm sorry, but are you telling me that this outfit is really extremely feminine? I wouldn't say that's the case at all. I would actually say this is pretty much unisex, so anyone can wear it, and I can tell you that for a fact because I have been to tons of Comic Cons last year. I went to the London Film at Comic Con Winter last year. I saw plenty of men dressed up as the 13th Doctor. So are you telling me that all those people who are dressed up as the 13th Doctor that are male are actually being a mockery and mocking Jodie, mocking the feminine look? Is that what you're trying to say here? No, it wouldn't be mockery. It would actually be better, and I'm fairly certain David Tennant would have honoured that. So that as your reason for why the costume changed is ridiculous. And the fact that the costume change doesn't get brought up in the 60th anniversary specials is also ridiculous. I also would like to point out that in regards to the regeneration, in universe, so for the 60th anniversary specials, which I'll get into in the next section of this video, because I'm mainly talking about Jodie's regeneration, when David Tennant's Doctor, is very shocked, he recognises the face, he's wondering what's going on, are we going to get a satisfying conclusion to why this face came back? I can tell you now, no we don't. We get a very contrived and rushed version when the power of the Doctor set up a perfect excuse for why this face could come back, because earlier in the story we had the Master physically taking over the Doctor's body and screwing with all the regenerations, and then when the Doctor got her body back, she was unsure how she got it back, and she wasn't sure how the Force regeneration would affect her going forward. Perfect idea for bringing back a previous incarnation. But no, do they roll with that? No. So you just wait and see, because in the next section, I'm going to talk about the 60th anniversary specials and some of the things that they did wrong, and as to why I think my concerns about season 2 are growing stronger and stronger. Now we move into the actual 60th anniversary specials. We had over a year to wait between The Power of the Doctor and The Star Beast, with not much Doctor Who content to fit in between. So we thought, oh, maybe now. We got RTD back behind the helm. We've got Disney, who are now pumping in money to help make Doctor Who look much better than ever. We got the return of David Tennant, Catherine Tate. Maybe this might be something really, really good. And then in 2023, we did get, just before the 60th anniversary specials hit, we had a Children in Need special titled Destination Skaro, a little mini short, which was almost like a prelude almost to Genesis of the Daleks, in order for us to get used to the 14th Doctor, get introduced to the 14th Doctor, and give us the first taste of RTD's new era of the show. And how is it? Well, RTD decides to stick his nose into it yet again. Now, the actual short itself isn't too bad, and obviously it's Children in Need. They try to do a bit of comic relief for it, and it is quite funny. I do quite like it, to be fair. It's not a bad little short, and you get to see David Tennant again, and he's playing the 14th Doctor pretty well. It is neat, and it's only about 5 minutes. So, in terms of the actual, plot itself, it's all right, and we do get to hear Nyder again, because like I said, this is sort of leading into Genesis of the Daleks a little bit. But it's what happens after that is the major problem, and RTD sticks his nose into it again, and at this point, he is just trying to wind the fans up. What am I talking about? Well, at the time, everyone was talking about it. Doctor Who YouTubers galore were putting videos out on it, and I wasn't really sure myself what to make of it. I'm of course talking about the controversy surrounding the potential changes and the original design for Davros himself. Again, I'm going to put another article on the screen again, which talks about RTD basically hinting that the original design of Davros needs to be done, needs to go. We cannot use it anymore because it's associating disability with being evil. And at that point, I'm thinking, what on earth are you talking about, RTD? You are just talking, and pardon my French, you are talking out your ass at this point. It is ridiculous. I don't know what you're on about. And if you need to keep, get a bit of a rain check in your era, do you remember Max Capricorn back from Voyage of the Damned? Hello, you put that villain in there. That was during your era. You allowed that to go ahead. So I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing wrong with Davros. There is no correlation at all between, his disability being the cause of him being evil, really. At least not that I can think of at the top of my head. And we've had years and years and years of Davros since Genesis of the Daleks, back in the early 70s to now. You even wrote a story with Davros in. You had a 2-part story with Davros in, The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. You never made an issue about it then. Why are you making an issue about it now? It is ridiculous. So that was not a good start to the era, in my personal opinion. But then we move into the actual 60th anniversary specials. Which first off, we have the Star Beast, where they adapt an old comic book from the 4th Doctor's era, and you've got like Beat the Meat, which brilliant character. I love Beat the Meat, and the story itself wasn't too bad, but unfortunately we started to get little bits and pieces of the change and the influence that Disney and that modern day TV is having. Now, I'm not one to talk about woke stuff. It's not my cup of tea, and I think some YouTubers go a bit too ham on it and a bit too crazy, and like I said, this is not supposed to be a proper rant, but I will admit it did feel a bit hammered home. Now, there's 2 scenes in The Star Beast that always annoy people. The first one is the pronouns scene where the Doctor and the Meep are talking to each other, and the Doctor says something along that I will help him get home, and then Rose says you're assuming he is a pronoun, and the Doctor then has to backtrack and he asks the Meep all about his pronouns. Are you he, are you she, are you they? And the Meep then responds with that. Lots of people criticise that scene. Yes, it went on a bit longer than needed, but it didn't really bother me too much. The scene in particular that I got bothered by was the scene towards the end after Donna comes back from the Meta-Crisis disaster. The whole thing that, the Doctor's face returning is all about, really, which I think is bizarre, is that it's shared now between Rose and Donna, and they make a few comments about, and in particular Donna makes a comment as well, about the fact that the Doctor couldn't figure it out anymore because he was no longer a woman. Yeah, why are we going down this road again? The Donna says, like, she would have figured it out. You should have stayed being a woman. She would have figured it out. I'm sorry, but the Doctor's the same person, regardless of whether they are a man or a woman. So that makes no sense. You're just having a little bit of a crack there for I don't know why. And then you have the line of something that a male-presenting Time Lord would never fully understand. Why are we going down this rabbit hole again? Why have we got to pick on a gender? Why have we got to pick on women? Why have we got to pick on men? We are human at the end of the day. Why can't we all just get along? I hate it in media when we feel the need to pick on one or the other. Why? That just needs to stop. So I know that really annoyed a lot of people. Then you move into Wild Blue Yonder, a story that RTD himself really bigged up in all the promotional trailers. He was like blocking out different bits and pieces, really bigging it up, having to hide the cast and crew. It was ridiculous. He wouldn't show anything from that story, so we thought it was going to be something huge. Turns out it was practically nothing. It was a great story and is definitely the best of the 60th anniversary specials, but there was very little in it. But what he does do is he changes something because he wants to get his own stamp on Doctor Who again. He wants his own little gag. Yes, it's funny to start with, but the fact that it's continuing really annoys me. I'm going to play a tiny little clip of it here for you. You'll know the scene I'm talking about. Here's the clip.
What was that done like? Full word? Shabbity, habity, mavity.
Yeah, so the concept of changing gravity into mavity is such a silly gag. Like, it works perfectly in Wild Blue Yonder, and I think as a one-off gag for a story, or maybe even just for the 60th anniversary specials, I think it's not too bad of an idea, and it's not the first time that Doctor Who's done something like this. But the problem is it doesn't just stop in this story, and it doesn't just stop in the 60th anniversary specials. At least for the foreseeable future, it's going to be a running gag all the way through the show. It happens numerous times in season 1, and I guarantee you it's going to happen a lot in season 2. So I just don't... It just kind of annoys me a little bit, and I cringe every time Mavity is mentioned. Me and my fiancé even sort of think that potentially they could use it, maybe hopefully to set up something for the future where it will go back to gravity. Maybe they'll encounter someone who still calls it gravity, and then the Doctor's sort of confused and wants to know what's going on. So maybe it might build to something, but I don't know. I think it's just going to be a silly gag that we'll never, ever hear the end of. So we've got Mavity for now. But like I said, Wild Blue Yonder wasn't too bad of an episode, but I don't get the secrecy. He went way too over the top with the secrecy for Wild Blue Yonder. The only thing of note in this story that was a bit of a surprise was the fact that we got to see Bernard Cribbins in his last ever performance as Wilfred Mott, which was a fantastic scene, and God rest your soul. Bernard Cribbins, we love you, and you are forever in our hearts. It was a fantastic scene, but that was all that was in it, because the rest of the story had nothing major. Sure, they talked about Flux, but there was not a lot in Wild Blue Yonder. So then, moving straight on then to The Giggle, one of the most divisive episodes of all time, especially for the 60th anniversary specials. You know, they brought back the Toymaker after so many years. We haven't seen him since the Celestial Toymaker back in 1966 with William Hartnell, played by Neil Patrick Harris, who does a fantastic job for what it's worth. We see the return of Melanie Bush, which is really nice to see Mel back, although the explanation for how she returns to Earth, I think they just rushed and sounded a bit weird. You know, I'm not a massive fan of their explanation for Mel's return, but it is what it is. Maybe we'll get some more detail on it in the future. But also, you know, we get to see Kate again, so that's really, really good. But the biggest part of The Giggle, and it needs to be said, and again, it's RTD trying to put his stamp on the show, trying to annoy the fans. He even said, I'm fairly certain I remember him saying this, he did an interview or something where he said he's got something that he knows is going to ruffle the feathers of the fans, and it's going to be something that some fans are really not going to like. And I'm just like, why are you constantly trying to annoy your fan base? Your fan base is what's keeping you in business and it's what's keeping the show alight. Why would you want to annoy those people? It doesn't make sense. You already know what I'm talking about. I'm, of course, talking about the bi-regeneration that happens about 40 minutes into The Giggle, and it's the turning point for The Giggle for me. The first 40 minutes of The Giggle is brilliant, but as soon as David Tennant starts to regenerate, it all goes wrong. The regeneration at the start was perfect. The 14th Doctor accepts the change. He understands that it's not dying, and he is willing to go through the change. He even ends on a line that I think the 10th Doctor should have said at the end of Time Part 2. He says, Allons-y, let's go, as a polar opposite to the 10th Doctor, who says, I don't want to go. So showing that character growth, it was just unbelievably brilliant. I was so happy that they went down that route. But just like that, RTD decided, no, we're not doing that. We're going to keep him around and we're going to knock all that character growth out the window, and actually, this face is going to get to survive yet again. So not only have we got the 10th Doctor, not only have we got the Meta-Crisis Doctor who's out there somewhere living his best life with Rose Tyler, but now we've also got the 14th Doctor who gets to carry on living and go on living a best life with Donna Noble. Why do you need to do this, RTD? Especially since you've said yourself, and by the looks of it, we are not going to be doing bi-regeneration anymore. I mean, we better not. I don't want to see that anymore. But he really, really put his foot in it with bi-regeneration, and it was an absolutely horrendous idea that barely anyone was able to get behind. Some people are a bit more accepting of it now, but despite all that, people are not happy with it, and I'm still not 100% on it myself. But I could get past it if, you know, then you got to have you know, the 14th Doctor actually did what he said he was going to do and retire so that then the 15th Doctor can go off on his travels. But oh my goodness, they decided to go one step further and do the unspeakable. And I cannot believe that they did this. I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, because it is unbelievable what they do.
Huh. Wish me luck. What for? We won the game. You got a prize, honey. Here is mine. I am so sorry.
Yeah, so on top of letting David Tennant again have another incarnation that can go on living, not only is that incarnation going on to live, but he's also existing in the same timeline as our current Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, but they decide to also give him his own TARDIS. So now he's got his own copy of the TARDIS and is free to fly off into time and space, basically as if nothing happened in the first place. What an absolute joke. I'm sorry. And then you've got new arguments stemming, because numerous people then are arguing as to who's got the real TARDIS, who's got the current TARDIS, you know, this, that, and the other. It's ridiculous. I don't know why RTD has done this. He turned a fantastic story into a convoluted, controversial... It was awful. I couldn't stand it. And I still try to forget it, even to this day, even though we're nearly 2 years on from the 60th anniversary specials. But that's everything that sort of went wrong in the 60th anniversary specials. Now we're moving on into Ncuti's era, into his first season, and there's a couple of things wrong with Ncuti's era as well. Now, in terms of the first series as a whole, I would say it was quite a mediocre series. But what is the one core thing that every new Doctor needs to have in his opening series? He needs to have good character growth, and you need to be able to connect with him. There's 8 episodes in season 1, 9 if you want to count the Church on Ruby Road Christmas special, but if we only count season 1, there's 8 episodes. How many Doctor Light episodes are in this season? There's at least 2 Doctor Light episodes in this series. 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble are both Doctor Light episodes that take place back to back. For a new Doctor's first season, you need to have the Doctor there. Doctor Who shouldn't be called Doctor Where. It's Doctor Who. It is ridiculous. I cannot believe that he made that decision. You know, and I know it was due partly to scheduling conflicts with Ncuti. I know all that. But if that's the case, then you need to postpone filming Doctor Who, or you need to do something. You can't have a brand new Doctor not be in almost a quarter of the series. You can't have that. He needs to be there in order to show us, yes, this is the Doctor, this is our new lead, he's fantastic. Because Ncuti does have loads of amazing scenes in this series. I love Boom, for example, which is written by Stephen Moffat. Fantastic episode where Ncuti takes the star role and he's just on a landmine for the entire story. Yeah, eat your heart out, Tom Baker in Genesis of the Daleks. But still, it is fantastic story, Boom. There's other great stories as well, like The Devil's Cord. The villain Maestro is a fantastic villain. Really makes the Doctor get a bit of PTSD for the giggle after hearing the giggle and learning that Maestro is linked to the Toymaker. Even though we found out that that story was supposed to be later on in the series. But RTD, again, messing up, shoehorned it in to go with Space Babies because he didn't have confidence that Space Babies was going to be good and keep fans engaged. And if you have a look at most people's bottom lists from season 1, including mine, Space Babies usually comes towards the bottom. Don't put your weakest story as your opener. It should be a strong opener, not a weak opener. But the worst part is yet to come, because the series finale of season 1, they bring back a classic villain. They bring back a big classic villain. A classic villain that loads of people from the classic series love and adore, especially me, especially being a massive fan of the 4th Doctor himself. He brings back Sutekh, but what does he do to my boy Sutekh? Oh my goodness, he absolutely annihilates him. He destroys Sutekh. Gabriel Wolf does a fantastic job in terms of the voice. I'm so happy he came back. He's, I think, 93 years old and is still going strong as Sutekh. He does a fantastic job, so there's no criticism there. I can't even criticize the design of Sutekh. I actually quite like the design that they give for Sutekh. Obviously, I would have liked a little bit of an homage to Pyramids of Mars in his design, even if it was only brief. But overall, I don't mind the design. It's what they do with Sutekh in that story is what's insulting. And I'll tell you what they do with him. They do nothing. They do nothing with him. He spends the whole episode sat on the TARDIS, just gloating and doing bugger all. Now, I know he doesn't do a lot in Pyramids of Mars, but that's because there's a plot reason for it. He's trapped. He's imprisoned. He would do something if he could. This Sutekh is free and has a time machine at his disposal. And still does nothing. He's also a gargantuan monster. Does nothing. He lets little henchmen do all his bidding for him. And at the end, he is defeated in one of the most insulting ways possible. I'm going to show you on the screen right now. He is put on a lead and he is dragged through the time vortex by the Doctor like a dog. And it is absolutely insulting. But the cherry on top of this cake is RTD does a massive change to Doctor Who history that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever and can even contradict numerous things in his own era alone. And it is unbelievable, and it's got to do with how long Sutekh has actually been on board the TARDIS, because we think it's just been since Wild Blue Yonder, because the TARDIS starts making really weird noises. But actually, oh my goodness, it's been a lot longer than that.
I defeated him. I cast you into the time vortex. I sent you forward to your own death.
Instead, I found a home. I clung to an infernal machine, and for so many years, I lived. I have travelled with you for all this time.
So what we can gather is since the events of Pyramids of Mars, when the Doctor defeated Sutekh and sent him forward in time to his own death, what actually happened is Sutekh somehow managed to cling onto the TARDIS and has been travelling with the Doctor since Pyramids of Mars, and it was only when Wild Blue Yonder came around that he was able to fully achieve godhood and possess the TARDIS. You're telling me Sutekh has been with the Doctor since his 4th incarnation, throughout all the rest of the classic series, throughout the Time War, throughout the Flux, throughout being trapped in a prison dial, throughout everything that's happened since 1975. That is absolute rubbish. There's so many situations in just New Who alone where that doesn't work, and you're telling me that Sutekh allowed those things to happen. He allowed the TARDIS in the Doctor's wife during the Matt Smith era to get possessed by House. He allowed the Daleks on the Cruciform to throw the TARDIS into the core for it to get destroyed on the inside. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. He allowed the TARDIS to get blown up by missiles. He's allowed the TARDIS in the classic series, like in Frontios, to get pulled apart. I don't believe it, and it is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. So it is stupid. So I don't know why they bothered to do that. So there's so many times that RTD has just pulled stuff out of thin air and just gone, here you go. Let's hope no one thinks too hard about it. And there, that's all we got. Obviously then the next mistake that he made was he'd built up this mystery on Ruby's mum, and it turns out she was just an ordinary person and it did not matter one bit. And his reasoning for it was just insulting. Again, RTD, all he's done since he's come back is just decide to annoy people. That's all he's done. He's just decided to annoy people and annoy the Whovians. And now he's slowly paying the price. Because now we're unsure about the future of the show. We're unsure if Shooty's going to continue. We're unsure if Disney are going to keep funding the show into a third series or beyond a third series. We're unsure about Doctor Who's future. And it's all because everything now has come back to bite him. And he is now struggling. And who gets affected the most? Us as fans. Because now the show that we love could potentially be taken from us simply because he thought it would be funny to introduce Mavity, to randomly throw in a bioregeneration, to bring back a classic Doctor Who villain and tear them to shreds. I just don't understand some of his decisions. And it's a shame because here and there's a few good episodes. You know, like I said, While Blue Yonder is great. The first half of The Giggle is pretty solid. Devil's Cord, boom, they're great stories. The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the build-up to Sutekh and the cliffhanger is fantastic and I adored it. It's part 2 with everything that has Sutekh in afterwards is rubbish because they don't do Sutekh justice. Even the most recent Christmas special, Joy to the World, was mediocre at best. So now we get on to one of the main things I wanted to talk about in this video, and that is Season 2, which starts on Saturday, the 12th of April. I have major concerns about Season 2. I'm just going to briefly tell you what my concerns are. Okay, so again, we've got another 8-episode format. One of my major concerns is that we are probably, because I'm fairly certain I've read somewhere, that we're going to get more Dr. Light episodes. We are having too many Dr. Light episodes. This cannot happen when you've got so little episodes. That would be 3 Dr. Light episodes in the span of 16 to 18 episodes if you want to count the Christmas specials. Most Doctors don't have barely any Dr. Light episodes, or if they do, they have maybe like 2 or 3 max in their entire era. Ncuti is going to have 3 within his first 2 seasons alone. And you've got to keep in mind how short these seasons are compared to previous Doctors who had seasons of 10 to 13 episodes. These are 8 episodes a season. So that is a big problem. Another big problem we've got is, you know, I just worry that they're not going to deliver in terms of the big threats and the big plot lines that we are owed. Like, for example, sure, they delivered on The One Who Waits, being Sutekh, but they absolutely destroyed him. But the other 2 things that we were promised in the 60th anniversary and early Ncuti that was set up is the boss. Who's the boss? I'm kind of worried about who that might be, if I'm being perfectly honest. And even if it is someone from the past, I'm concerned that it's potentially going to be ruined. And then the mystery of Mrs. Flood. Now, the mystery of Mrs. Flood is intense, and we're going to see Mrs. Flood a lot more in Season 2, even travelling with the Doctor or turning up on some of the Doctor's adventures, which I think is interesting. As you might have seen in the teaser trailers, that was leaked. However, the problem is, I think they're building it up, and it's going to be something not very good. Now, Anita Dobson herself at Comic-Cons, and me and my fiance met Anita Dobson last year at the Cardiff Comic-Con, and she actually said that some people have actually guessed already who she is, and they've actually got it right, but she's just not said. And there's a couple of guesses that fly around my head. Some, you know, one of my guesses is either the Black or White Guardian. Another guess could be like something like Omega, could be the Rani. I know some people have said Romana because of the white coat that she wears, has a big resemblance to the coat that Romana wears in the Ribos operation back in the Key to Time. You know, if I was to put any money on it, I think a Guardian, especially since we're doing this whole myths and gods sort of thing, I think maybe that. But my concern is, are they going to do the Guardians justice? I also have a concern about potentially these episodes feeling rushed, because that was a big thing in Season 1, is some episodes we got to the finale too quickly. I'm worried that RTD is not going to have really thought about the episode order properly, a bit like how he messed up with Devil's Cord. Was supposed to be, I think, episode 5, but it ended up being episode 2 because he had no faith in his opener. I also have the concern that we're not going to get a good developed new companion, because obviously Millie Gibson left at the end of the season, but she is coming back because we have seen her in the trailer in a slightly different role, and we got a brand new companion. But I'm worried that we're going to have another companion, a bit like Ruby, who's not going to be fully developed, because in my opinion, Ruby was not developed very well. Nothing against Millie Gibson, she did a fantastic job, but I just didn't buy into the Doctor and Ruby's relationship. I thought it went far too quickly, far too quick, and it just wasn't believable for me. So I worry, are we going to get another relationship like that? So that's my concern. Is the companion not going to be developed enough? I also worry that they're going to just forget about characters that they introduced. Like when they introduced Lenny Rush's character for Legend of Ruby Sunday to take over as the new scientific advisor, I was like, where's Shirley? You know, the scientific advisor from the 60th anniversaries. But now we find out that Shirley is coming back in the finale, at least of this episode, or maybe sooner. But she's coming back. But where's Lenny Rush's character? Is he going to be gone now? Are we going to keep interchanging these characters? Because it gets really confusing after a while. And I worry that also with Kate. Kate is a fantastic character, and she is the Brigadier of New Who. But the problem that we have with Kate is I think she's now being too overused. Since Flux, she's getting used again and again and again, and she's not really doing anything. She's sort of just like window dressing, like, oh, remember me? I've been in every era so far. And again, nothing against Gemma Redgrave, fantastic actress, and she puts her all into everything. But I worry, again, it's going to be another finale, like Season 1, where Kate was just killed off and then forgotten about. You know, so it's just, I worry that we're going to forget about characters and character development is going to not be great. But I'm going to try my best to be a little bit hopeful for Season 2. And fingers crossed, it's going to be better than Season 1. And then Doctor Who will be back on top form. And we can go on into Season 3 and 4 and however long the show goes on for. Oh, now I'm sorry that was a bit of a longer video. I'm sorry I did end up breaking out into a little bit of a rant, but I just felt like I needed to get this new era of the show, since Disney took over in 2023, off my chest and give you my full thoughts on everything we've had so far in preparation for Doctor Who Season 2, which comes out again on Saturday the 12th of April this year. But I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up and comment down below your thoughts on the current era of the show, and are you looking forward to Season 2 in April? And subscribe if you are new, but for now, this is the Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.